is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is a song called Give It Up. It is Great White. That comes from the Full Circle release. And coming full circle after a long time away from the Classic Metal Show is the one, the only, the guitarist, the great guitarist of Great White, Mr. Mark Kendall. Mark, how are you, sir?
Doing good. Thanks, Chris.
Sure, man. Well, Mark, I played that song specifically because I love the intro to that. It is very much, it's almost like it's your homage to Jimi Hendrix in a way, man. It's such a cool song.
Thanks. Yeah. It was a real exciting time to go back and work with Michael Wagner because we hadn't been with him in so long, and he just creates a vibe, you know, and makes it real comfortable. So it was a lot of fun doing that record.
No question. Well, Mark, for you, the touring never seems to stop, man. It seems like you guys are always on the road. It seems like every day I turn, I go to YouTube or something, I see, well, they're in New York today. Well, they're in Idaho today or Omaha or wherever. It seems like you guys never stop, man. It's a good problem to have these days, isn't it?
Sure. And, the fans are still there. We got a sold-out show in New York tomorrow. So, that we still get pumped. I mean, it's exciting, and just to chill with the fans. We always have huge meet and greets, and I don't know. It's really eventful. The tours, it's not like touring in back in the day when we had buses and everything was routed perfect. So that's why we're like, we might be in New York and then Minnesota and then Florida or something, So, but it's all good. Airplanes will get you there quick, and I don't know. We're thrilled.
Absolutely. So Mark, obviously since the last time that I spoke to you, you've had a change at vocalist. Terry left. You've got Mitch Malloy fronting the band now, and he's been there more than a year. So that that's our bad, I guess, for not communicating. But let's talk a little bit about Mitch coming into the band, man. It's such a weird thing with that guy. He's so unbelievably talented as a singer and just never found the right band or the right niche or whatever to rise to that status level. What was it about Mitch that you saw that finally had you bring him into the band?
Well, I'd seen him a couple times, but not in a singing situation. Okay. And I didn't know anything about him whatsoever, mainly because of all the touring we did back in the day. And he just kind of flew under the radar for me, but he's a great, great singer. I happened to see this Van Halen story on my phone one morning and remembered him from coming into Wagner's to do a shout vocal with a bunch of other people. And I met him on the cruise. He actually, on the Monsters cruise, he came on stage. So that morning I was on the phone and I'm going, who is this guy? And he was in Van Halen, I guess, for a couple months. It didn't work out, but I listened to him do like Panama. And then I'm going, holy crap, he's got this like 10 album solo career and all this stuff, And then I started seeing him like he's on like Jay Leno and, shows like that. So I'm like, whoa. And I listened to a couple of his solo songs. I'm going, man, this dude has like pipes for days. I mean, he really has a range. He looks amazing. So we got a hold of him, see if he's interested in like, coming down and jamming with us. And he wasn't sure if his voice would fit. So we sent him old music, like the old hits like Rock Me and stuff like that. And then a couple new ones. And he had a studio. I guess he had like mixed Kenny Loggins and, so he's real familiar in the studio, being an engineer. So he overdubbed his vocal, no problem. He's going, holy crap, man, this melts in pretty good. Like he was even kind of shocked. And then we heard it and we're going, dude, here's your plane ticket. Let's go.
Right.
So he came out, we jammed for 3 days and went and did a show, and he's been in the band like a year and a half now. So it's pretty crazy, or even more than that, actually.
Sure.
June will be 2 years. So,
right.
He really brings it every night. As far as why the stars didn't line up for him perfect and he didn't like go huge, I don't know. Maybe his stuff was too pop orientated, because he seems to really rock pretty hard, on stage, and engages the crowd and all that, like the big singers do.
Sure.
He seems like he's real natural with that. So, yeah, it's exciting. We really like him.
Excellent. And you're right. It is such a weird thing with, he has the voice, he has the chops. He definitely seems to have the presentation. I guess it's probably more than anything else back in the day for him. It was probably just really being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely. When I was up and coming, it just so happened one night the stars lined up and the right guy was in the crowd.
Right.
But I had friends, Tracy G and a lot of buddies of mine who just tore the guitar up.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy did real good, because he was in Dio and stuff.
Right.
But I had other friends that, I don't know, I would think that, they kind of blow me away, But in my mind, I mean, God, I used to learn from guys like Mark St. John and, some of the guys that maybe didn't get in the right situation,
Mm-hmm.
So it has a lot to do with luck and having the right group of people and the right music and being in the right place at the right time. So there's a lot of factors, I've never heard a story where somebody, sent their bio and 8x10 and demo tape to a record company and got a deal.
Right.
It's always some crazy story. They just happen to be here and,
right.
something good happened. So, but it is perseverance. I'm not going to say it's absolute 100% luck, because we did put ourselves in a position to get lucky by playing so much.
Sure.
But apart from that, you do have to have things go your way, a little bit.
Right. And a big part of it, I think, for you guys too, was just, the chemistry of sounds and everything else. It was the right chemistry to not sound, and I'm just thinking back to when I first discovered Great White, which was, Shot in the Dark, I think was the first tape I had. Yeah. And, sure. What was unique about you guys then was that you sort of had the sound that everybody had, but not so much that it sounded clonish. There were a lot of bands that came out at that time, but I think the addition of the blues stuff and certainly the ballads helped establish Great White almost away from a lot of the bands that came out at the same time.
It's funny you say that, because Eddie Trunk had said something similar. He said there was something about Great White, that blues overtone that kind of separated them from, some of the other bands, what made it kind of a little different.
Sure.
We had the fashion as far as, we had the hair, we had the Aquanet, our clothes were being made by the same guy who made Judas Priest clothes, Motley Crue clothes, Rats clothes, So that was the fashion, but it really didn't dictate to our music at all, really.
Right.
So you can call it hair metal or whatever you want, but it really didn't have anything to do with apart from that was kind of the fashion at the time.
Right. I'm gonna ask you a question, and I know your life has changed greatly since, but I had always heard, and I honestly think this is the reason you got lumped in with the hair bands, with the Motley Crue and Poison and whatever, was because you guys partied so hard. And when I say that, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of bands, and they all say that back in that time that, it wasn't Motley Crue, it wasn't Guns N' Roses that were partying the hardest, it was Great White. Every band has told me that.
Yeah, it was pretty silly. It was pretty crazy. We had you got to realize this is every single day. We're playing 5 nights a week,
right,
in arenas. So we had 4 cases of beer, 3 bottles of Stoli, wine, and it was like gone every gig.
Jeez.
You know, so yeah, there was some partying going on. I mean, we were partying with like VJs from MTV.
Right.
You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked, man. But yeah, we definitely had a good time. But when you go a little too hard, it starts catching up with you as far as physically.
Right.
I mean, you know, you from the traveling, and then you're partying real hard, it starts to catch you. You know, your body starts to tell you, "Hey, dude, you know,
right.
you got a show tonight." I remember on tour with Judas Priest, I played pool with Glenn Tipton for about 10 hours until like 8 in the morning. And we had a show that night. We must have drank like 20 pitchers of beer. we both looked at each other, and he goes, "Mark," and he's walking on stage. He goes, "I don't feel well." You know? So yeah, you know, it was a lot of fun. I mean, you know, I kind of just quit everything, you know,
sure.
a few years back, but yeah, I'm not ashamed of anything from back then.
Sure. And nor should you be then or now. You know, I know from seeing a lot of the stuff that you post online, you know, you take a lot of pride, not only in maintaining your own sobriety, but in the fact that you've really helped. It seems like you've helped a lot of people, both directly and just indirectly, to get themselves clean. And you know, to me, it seems like you take as much pride in that as you do anything musically.
Oh, no doubt, because I know how difficult it is to get sober, and there's people out there that, you know, and I'm not talking about social drinkers that, you know, go out and have fun. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about people that are like suffering,
sure,
and just don't know how to get away from it. And my whole reason for doing it was just thinking that maybe I could share my story with them and tell them, "Hey, I'm just like you. It's just that I got better, and here's the way I did it." And I started that about 8 years ago, and people started, you know, kind of being my sober friend, and I send them daily meditations and prayers and stuff. And it grew from like one guy to now I have like 120 people on my online support group.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of success, you know. So it's just something that I thought, you know, instead of using Facebook to showcase my guitar and how great I am or whatever, you know, I just thought this would be something I'd be giving back a little bit. And, you know, there's a lot of great stories of people that were really damaged, and I've seen the transition from how they looked before and after, and it's like pretty amazing now.
Oh, it is.
So I enjoy that.
Sure. And now I'm curious for you, you know, obviously a lot of the places that you play, you know, make their living selling alcohol, and you know, you're obviously around it. How, I mean, you're obviously a veteran of it at this point, but how difficult is it sometimes when it's, you know, all around you, you know, pretty much every weekend?
Yeah. What I tell newcomers, and I mean people that, you know, maybe they only got a couple weeks sobriety, is try to stay out of those situations.
Sure.
The way I do it is it's a one day at a time process. I mean, I don't get any really urges to drink or anything like that. Hasn't happened for quite a while, but you know, there's people out there that drink socially and they don't have a problem, and I don't have a problem with them. I mean, if I'm next to somebody and they're talking to me and they're really, really wasted and like spitting on me or something, you know, I might kind of turn and walk away. But as far as it being a thing that's going to make me drink, that's probably not going to happen. But I do suggest people identify their triggers, and maybe it's not a good idea to go to bars when you're trying to be sober,
right? Or,
you know, try to keep out of situations where. And what I mean by identifying your triggers, like a lot of times it could be, you know, just anger, you know. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of times in the early stages of sobriety, like 4 to 6 weeks, you start grabbing excuses out of the air why you should drink. Like, my life's still horrible, so screw this, man.
Right.
I'm just going to drink. You know what I mean? So I kind of warn against that. I go, just try to get past those angry moments, like the world still sucks, and all that. And if you can get by for about 3 months, you start to notice that things start changing around you and getting better. And I just want people to kind of get into that zone where they can really see improvement in their life.
Sure, definitely. Now, Mark, moving back to music here. I mean, it's good stuff, but I don't want to just turn this into a a social thing. But with now that Mitch has been in the band for like you said, going on 2 years now, and you certainly learned some lessons with Elation and Full Circle working with Terry. Is there going to be new music recorded with Mitch or
yes,
what?
Absolutely. We've been writing. Okay. I got a lot of ideas. I've been going in and out of the studio. I've sent him music. He's come back with lyrics and melody and song. So we're kind of in the idea stages right now. In fact, Michael was just in my drummer's studio, hooking it all up. So we're going to start to get together and put these ideas together and try to come out with something.
Okay. Do you do music now, recording new music? Is it more of a passion thing than a money thing? Because, as well as I do, it is very hard to sell any music these days.
We've always been in it for that reason, not really. Of course, money happens and you need it to survive, but
sure.
We've always done it out of the love for it, regardless of the world changing. Making new music is what gives us our energy.
Right.
I mean, we don't want to, when I say this, I don't mean that we're not grateful, but to become just an oldies band that just goes out there and plays once bitten, twice shy.
Right.
It's great. And we're grateful for Rock Me and all our hits. And that the fans love those songs, but we also need to for our motivation and energy and for us to be excited, we got to keep making new music.
Sure. Is it,
we got to keep, going.
Is it difficult for you to find places to, obviously when you do new music and you want to present it live, you have to cut something out of the set list and I know it this way. I know in my heart, I know that you would probably much rather play Big Time than Once Bitten, Twice Shy. Not because you don't like the song, but because you've played it 10,000 times versus a song like Big Time or Moonshine or something that you just haven't played out a bunch of times for fans. How do you make that decision? I mean, there's certain songs that you obviously have to play no matter what every night, but how do you make the decision on, well, we're gonna kill, I don't know, the Angel Song or something, and instead we're gonna put in Cry of a Nation?
The way we do it is, and I'm talking even like way back in the day, apart from when we only had one record, so we went out and played the whole thing.
Right.
But when we started to get 3 and 4 albums under our belt, when we come out with a new record, we just play a couple of the songs. We wouldn't bombard them with the entire album or something unless we're doing some special performance.
Sure.
So when we come out with a new album, we just take 2 tracks and we'll play those live and kind of test them out. And, so we never bombard people with new music. We just take a couple at a time.
Sure.
And that's enough to keep us excited, because believe it or not, when you just interchange a couple songs in the set, it gives it a whole different look.
Sure. Well, and it gives you all I've heard this before. You could tell me if I'm right or not, but I've heard even just rearranging the songs, the order that they're played, because you have to for you as a guitar player or for the rhythm section or the singer, you have to change up how you transition into the songs, or maybe what the stage rap is or something, so it doesn't get stale.
Right. And not only that, we have some extended jams that are different, like every show.
Sure.
So we don't know what's going to happen. So that's exciting also when not everything's pre-planned, but yeah, rearranging the set, maybe interchanging 3 or 4 songs, which would be considered B songs. But believe it or not, a lot of B songs have become, that were never really hits on the charts, had become what they used to call a turntable hit.
Right.
Which means, like a song like Save Your Love was never in the top 10, but it's a hit with the fans. Like,
sure.
They love that song. And a couple of other ones that, literally a whole career, we've only had, we've had a lot of songs like in the top 20 as far as Billboard goes, but we've only had 2 songs in the top 10, ones that were like competing with Michael Jackson.
Right.
So, and usually a band's career, they only have, if you have 2 songs that made it in the top 10, that's actually not a bad career.
No.
It could be worse.
Well, and there's a lot of bands that are out there that don't have two songs that are still, able to tour, 35 years left, not picking on them, but Autograph had one, that's the first one that came to mind was Autograph had Turn Up the Radio, and they can still tour based on the love of that one song. You get 2. And
you mentioned that band because I know, I knew the singer from way, way back,
right.
A long time ago. He was in a band called Wolfgang, Steve Plunkett, and he was always kind of a guy I looked up to. So when that band came out, I was real happy for him,
sure.
And we had run into them over the past 5 years a few times and played some shows with them. So that's kind of, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Sometimes it's just one hit. It's kind of a strange situation to what a hit is. It's I guess something that the fans can relate to, that they hear a lot.
Right. Sure. Yeah. And it's a weird thing because I honestly think that true fans of a band really don't care about the radio hits. The true fans of Great White probably don't care as much about Once Bitten, Twice Shy as they do a song like, I don't know, Mr. Bone or whatever because the true fans wore the records out. The true fans listened to front and back of their cassette tape for years, where the casual fan, heard it on the radio until it wasn't on the radio. And
a lot of the fans, they even go to deeper cuts than Mr. Bone.
Sure.
And it's hysterical because we'll do a meet and greet, and they say, "Why didn't you play some obscure song that we maybe played once 20 years ago?" So it's when you have 13 albums, it is very difficult to please everyone.
Sure, of course, nice.
Unless you're going to play a 20-hour show.
Yeah, not today, right? Nice.
The longest show we ever played was almost 3 hours. I felt like I was Bruce Springsteen or something. Like let's take a 15-minute break halfway through it.
Right.
But we played 24 songs in Japan.
Wow.
It was like the longest show known to man. And when you have a show that long, what we kind of realized is you need more going on visually,
right,
and just playing song after song after song to make it exciting.
Sure.
Something's got to be dynamic visually. Just kind of like a song like Rock Me. It's slamming at one point, and then it goes down to where there's hardly anything going on.
Right.
And then, boom, your show needs to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's amazing that Springsteen's been able to do it forever. And he's the absolute opposite of that. He really doesn't have a lot going on his stage other than a lot of people. It's a trip. He has really good songs though, and he takes a break. Right.
Like, which to me, he can do it. He's Bruce Springsteen. He can pretty much do what he wants, but to me, that would be the weirdest thing known to man, because we kind of crescendo until the end, and then boom, it's over. I can't imagine going, okay, we're going to take a break now.
Sure.
go grab something to eat, or you know what I mean?
Right.
It seems like something you do. Well, something like we used to do when we used to play 5 sets a night as
Right.
up and comers. We'd don't forget to tip the waitresses and all that.
Right.
But taking a break right in the middle of your show, I can't envision a band like us doing that.
Yeah. The only one that I've seen do it well, and you can relate to him musically, is Jason Bonham with the Led Zeppelin Experience.
Oh, cool.
He does it. The way he does it, though, is it's like you said. It's almost like Club Days, where he's doing the Zeppelin songs, and he literally does a set that leads to a crescendo, and then he comes back out and he starts over with kind of like some video of his family and stuff, and just kind of leads people in, and then builds back up again, and then ends obviously with like Stairway to Heaven or something. That's kind of what I was saying about it. Something has to happen visually. Yeah.
If you're going to play a big long set with maybe play a video like you said, or something to give a lot
Sure.
of stuff for people to look at. You know what I mean?
No question. Well, Mark, obviously it's a busy time for Great White. Great White will be here in Cleveland in a week and a half, and I can't wait. It's on Friday the 22nd or 21st? Whatever the date is.
22nd, I think.
22nd.
Yeah, we're excited to play Cleveland. For some reason, we haven't got there a ton, and I always loved Cleveland, man. I remember that venue that we used to play. I think we did it with Whitesnake and maybe Alice Cooper, I can't remember, but they have, it's Twisted Sister. Like you can play one side of the place and then play the other. It was like a theater and then
the Agora. Side. Yeah, the Agora. Yeah.
Yeah. That place was a trip, man.
Sure.
I really like that. And you know what's weird about it?
What's that?
It's when you're playing on the theater side, the acoustics are so like I guess you'd call it dead, you know what I mean?
Okay.
To where you can't really hear the crowd, so you think they might not be into it.
Right.
But they're going completely batshit. It was really a strange gig, but I figured it out. I go, no, it's just the acoustics of the room that are, it's kind of silent. I don't know. It's it was kind of a strange experience, but a lot of fun. I got a lot of good memories, and there's a lot of great bands in Cleveland. It's unbelievable.
No question. Well, we're definitely looking forward to seeing you here in a couple of weeks. And why don't we do this, Mark? Why don't we wrap this interview up with I'll let you pick anything from the Great White catalog that you'd like us to play. Maybe tell us a quick story about it to wrap it up.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I hate to do one familiar one, but here's the story. We put out our first album, and we got off the Whitesnake and Judas Priest tour way back in the early 80s,
right.
And we didn't sell enough records. So the record company said, well, we owe you another record, but we're not going to do anything with it. So we go, well, that would be pointless to waste music, so let's just part ways.
Right.
So we went through a whole year with no record deal, and then Capitol sent an A&R man to come see us, and we got a deal with them, which was the father company of EMI America, right, who basically dropped us. So we, instead of having to prove ourselves with some kind of demo record, we made a record from scratch, and that's when we got signed by Capitol. We came with Rock Me was the first single, and I remember hearing it back. And, you kind of have tunnel vision about your parts and what you're playing. You really don't know what's going to happen with the final result.
Right.
But I remember sitting there, and I was right next to the A&R guy, hearing it back on the speakers, and I was like, like I didn't know what I'd done or what the band had done until that moment when I heard it back. I go, holy shit, this is a good song, man. And you know what I mean? So that was a great moment. So go ahead, blast that one. Why not?
All right. Well, let's check it out right now. It is Great White with Rock Me right here on your Classic Metal Show.